Hello folks, I'm Scott Grove and welcome to my Beyond the Basics guitar course. Now what we're going to teach you today is pretty much everything that nobody else will ever teach you. I'm assuming that you know all the basic chords. Your C's, F's, G's, E's. You can find the information on how to play those chords anywhere on the internet. So I'm just going to start you from what you've basically learned. I'm going to get you past doing this. Okay, we're going to get past that. You're like, what do I do next? Okay, we're going to get you past that. So from this, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do stuff like get you these. Okay, how to play notes within all the chords and all the variations you can play. We're also going to show you what are called modal chords. If you have an E chord, for example, okay, that same chord can be used in other places, but keeping that exact same formation. A modal chord simply means, think of it as mobile. You can take that chord and move it other places. So you've got okay, I have not changed the chord at all. Same thing, you got D chords. You can move them around. I'm going to show you how to do those. And the other thing we're going to discuss is melody. And within the melody part, we're going to actually also discuss variations on chords where you can play different chords in other places on the neck. By something like this. Okay, that's right, you're going to be able to play all that type of stuff too. So I'm going to show you how to do all these, and anyway, have fun. You can always run this back anywhere you need to. Fast forward it, skip ahead if you already know something, pause it, learn all this stuff. All of this is very important to get you past just the basic chords. So we're going to move on and make you actually a guitar player, not a person who just knows how to play some chords. Alright, so let's have fun and let's go. Okay folks, this is about all you're going to see of me for the next hour. Anyway, let's make sure we got our guitar tuned up. We're going to go, I'm going to name the strings in case you don't know them for some reason. From the low E to the next string, your A. Next string down is your D string. Down to your G, to your B, to your high E, okay, so now what we're going to start off with is variations on chords. I'm going to show you all the regular chords, you know, your D's, your G's, E's, so forth, and the variations you can do on them. Okay, typically the first chord that everybody learns for some reason is a D chord, so we will start there. Okay, and quickly through it, if you don't know it, you got your open D string, you got your first finger on the 2nd fret on your G string, your ring finger on the 3rd fret on your B string, and your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the high E. Play all 4 strings. Okay, now you apparently probably already know that. Now we're going to show you all the little notes that you could play within that. First ones are the things that we're going to show you. We're not going to add anything yet, we're going to pull something off. We're going to pull off your first finger that's here on the G string. So you've got it down, you can pull it off, put it back on, pull that finger off. Okay, already you've got Okay, another thing we can do is pull off your middle finger off of that high E string. All these will take a little bit of practice and you'll get used, your fingers will get used to it. Okay, so we've got two fingers that we can pull off of there and put back on. And with most things, you just got to practice these things, get your fingers trained to do that. So I would sit around for 10-15 minutes and you've got this forever. Okay, now when we're putting these back on, these are called hammer-ons, you actually slam your finger back on to the note. So you play it once, you slam it back on, or hammer it back on. That's where it gets its name. You only have to pick it one time. So you can sit around and get used to the strength that it takes to make these happen. Okay, so far we've got... Okay, from that we're going to start adding things. What else can I do to add some notes to this D chord to make some melody here? Okay, only thing we have left is our pinky. It gets to do the work. Okay, so the first place we can put it is on the high E string on the 3rd fret, or directly below your ring finger. So you're adding it underneath that ring finger. Okay, so now we could take off the one here on the 2nd fret on the high E string. And you can add the pinky there at the 3rd fret on that high E string. Okay, already if you're just going to be picking with your right hand, you've already got the makings of something cool. That's all just by doing those 3 finger movements. Okay, there's a couple more places where your pinky can come in handy here. You've got another note you can actually hit, which is a stretch. You're going up to the 4th fret on the G string. So you're going to be hitting that B note there. Okay, it sounds kind of funky right now, but I'll show you how it's used. Okay, so you've got that note. Okay. Now what else we can do while we're in D, that's basically all your fingers can reach. There's one more, if you can reach it, you're going to love this one. Is your pinky all the way up to the 5th fret on the high E string. Way up there. It seems like a stretch now and impossible now. It's not impossible because everybody plays this. It's just a matter of getting your elbow where it actually needs to go and get that finger stretched up there. So you've got... Now you're saying, that's the note I want. You got to work for it. You got to go get it. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of variations. Now you've got one more place your pinky can go. We had it at the 4th fret here on the G string. Now we can put it at the 4th fret on the D string. Okay, so you've got those 2 places. Okay, now typically if you're playing in the key of D, you're going to want to go to a G chord in most songs. Okay, there's a way to get to that without sounding so boxy like we were just playing and like you've been playing. Instead of just switching, you can opt for this. It's another thing you can do in D. What we're actually going to do is only keep the ring finger on the B string at the 3rd fret. Everything else we're going to pull off of there, and you're going to put your middle finger on the 3rd fret on that A string. So you're just playing down, strumming down. Okay. So you can play all the other strings open. It's still a D chord, it's just a variation of a D chord. It's a D suspended 2. Okay, so you're actually, there's your D, you're lifting everything off except for your ring finger. You're putting your middle finger down, right there on that 3rd fret on the A string. You've got that nice open chord. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Where your ring finger is, now replace it with your pinky. And you're still going to use your middle finger, but now on the 2nd fret of the A string. So you get this. You can even go back one more on that A string, putting your 1st finger on the 1st fret of your A string. So those. You can lift that off, play the A string open, and then your G chord. So that one quickly. Here's all your variations. Okay, that's one way to get to your G. Now, also from the D to get to your G, you could just use those notes that I showed you, the 3rd and 2nd fret on the A string by themselves to get to the G. Just builds right into your G chord. Okay? Another way to get up to your G chord from your D is that. Now what we have is just on the D string, your 3rd string from the top, is just 2 notes. So you've got your D string, because you're playing in D. Okay, so you go into the 2nd fret on the D string with your 1st finger, then with your ring finger to the 4th fret. So it's just simply that. Then your G chord. That's just playing the same thing backward. So you're in G. So to get back to the D, your G string. Then those same 2 notes on the D string, 2nd fret or 4th fret, 2nd fret, then open D string. When you play the open D string, you play the D chord. So that's how you get back and forth between those 2 chords. And that's all that you can do while you're in D as far as moving your fingers around. Okay, the next thing we're going to go to is what can we do in G. Okay, so let's go to G. Okay, now first thing I'm going to tell you right off the bat, you have your G chord, your middle finger on the 3rd fret on the low E string. On your A string, you got your 1st finger on the 2nd fret, and normally you have a pinky or your ring finger on the 3rd fret on the high E string. Okay, now the best sounding G chord is going to be actually adding one more note to this. I'm going to suggest that you play your G chords like this for the rest of your life, which is play your regular G chord. I'm going to be showing you with my pinky here, because what I want you actually to do is take your ring finger and put it on the B string on the 3rd fret, so it's right above the pinky. So you actually got 4 notes going on here. It's just a better sounding G chord, trust me. It won't sound out of tune as much as a regular G chord, and for some reason it always does. So you've got those 2 notes. instead of like you normally would have. It's just a better sounding G chord, and it's going to lend itself to what I'm getting ready to show you. Okay, so you've got your typical G. Did you know that, okay, we're going to actually take this G and we're going to make it into what's called a C suspended second, but for our purposes, it's just another way to play a C chord. You could take these two notes up here at the top, pretend like your fingers are glued together, and you're going to drop them both down one string. So now you've got your middle finger on your A string on the 3rd fret, and your first finger on your D string on the 2nd fret. So you're just taking these two top notes and moving them both down at the same time, each one string. Now you're only going to play those 5 strings. So work with that. So that saves you from having to go from G to C, having to change that whole chord. It's just another way of playing it, and it sounds very cool. People use it all the time, so you need to learn it. And it doesn't just stop there. You can also take those 2 fingers, drop them down one more time, and you get a variation of an F chord. Okay, so you've got 3 chords there, and you're only moving these 2 fingers each time. So instead of having to go G, C, F, you just move those 2 fingers. Okay, what else can we do with this G chord? Not a whole lot, unfortunately. You can make, like a 7th chord out of it, which is having to restructure the whole chord. I'll show it to you. So these 2 top notes are going to be replaced by 2 different fingers. You've got your ring finger now on the 3rd fret on the E string, your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, then you got to stretch your first finger all the way down to the 1st fret on that high E string. Great chord, you got to know it, because if you're going to go from G to F, or to C, would even sound better. So you're creating that G7 that lets somebody know that the chord is getting ready to change, and you can almost tell that it's going to go to that C chord. Just by the way it sounds, you've heard it a zillion times. Okay, that again is just for your straight strumming thing, so not a lot of information there, but you need to know it. As far as other notes you could play in your G, okay, it's basically hammer-ons again. Your key is going to be right here. Okay, on your A string, keep everything where it's at, lift up your first finger on that A string, and you're going to hammer it back onto where it was there on the 2nd fret. So you've got, okay, after you play that, then hit your open G string. So you've got, it's just a nice little easy lick you can do in the key of G. And that's the other one. Same thing. You're doing it instead of on the A string. Do it now on the D string. Then you're getting rid of it, making your G chord again. So you play the D string, hammer on to the 2nd fret, play the open G string, then your regular G chord. Okay, now the reason there's not a whole lot more you can do in the G's because all your fingers are basically occupied. So that's the majority of it. You can switch around and play lead stuff in there, but that's later down the road. All that fun stuff. Okay, so we're going to concentrate just on the stuff you could do within these chords. We're going to your E chord. You got your open E, second fret middle finger on the A string, second fret ring finger on the D string, first fret with your index finger on the G string, everything else open. Okay, again, we can go right to an A by dropping these two fingers down. So that's one way to get from an E to an A without having to make the big change, and it has a different sound and it sounds cool. Okay, so that's one cool thing you could do in E. Now we do have our pinky available again, so we can do a couple things. And these are going to take place on the B string and the E string. Okay, so on the B string you can add your pinky to the second fret. And you can also move it up to the third fret. That is actually your E 7th chord. If you're going from an E chord to an A chord. That's just a passing tone so you can get to it. So again, you've got the B string on the second fret with your pinky, third fret for your E7. Okay, now on your high E string, you could do those same notes. I know the second one sounds kind of weird. You're going to the second fret and third fret. You'd like to hear it here on the fourth fret. That's another place you can go. I'll show you why that third fret, where you can use it. Just gives you one of those old classic rock and roll, hillbilly rock type of thing. So that's using just the two notes there on the B string. Okay, and again on the E, remember you can drop those two fingers down for your A. Okay, so you get those type of things. C, we're going to go to the C. There's tons of stuff to do here. And it's just one of those chords that is a beautiful thing because it lends itself to so many melodies. So you've got your C chord. Okay, again, for you people who skipped it somehow, you've got your ring finger on the third fret of your A string, your middle finger, second fret of your D string, and your first finger on the first fret of your B string. Everything else is open, you don't play the top string. Okay, so you've got your C. Okay, variations on this. Again, you can go to an F major 7, very cool sounding chord, by dropping the top two. Put them back up for your C. So you've got two cool sounding chords here. Okay, now the easy thing to remember is if you have that C chord and you want to go to a straight F chord, again you're just dropping those and then flattening out your first finger to get a regular F to cover both strings at the first fret. So you're... So that's the only difference there. Okay, to do all the variations in C, you've got your pinky available to do all kinds of things. Lots of lifts, lots of additions. Okay, first we're going to show you that you can take off that first finger. Okay, now you can do that just like we did in so many others, in the D especially. Okay, the other one you can take off is your middle finger. Hammer-ons again. Okay, so those are the two you can take off. Now to add something, let's get our pinky on the 3rd fret on that high E string. Now we're going to start making some music here, people. Now we're going to actually, like I showed you how to flatten out that thing to like an F, covering both strings. Okay, we're actually going to do that. Okay, we're keeping it as a C chord, but we're actually flattening that finger out. Then bring it back to a regular C chord. Okay, now what else we have that we can do is the pinky on the 3rd fret on the B string. And get rid of it. So you've got there's a cool one right there. What we're doing again with the pinky on the 3rd fret, it's all about the 3rd fret with this thing, is on the D string. So it's going right underneath your ring finger. But we're going to hammer that on. And then play your open G string. Okay. Now, cool other thing you can do in there is start with that pinky on that 3rd fret of the D string. Pull it off. I'm only hitting the pick one time. So what you're doing with your pinky is actually pulling it, and you're gonna pluck it as you pull it off. So you're actually like you're using a pick on your right hand, but you're taking that pinky, pulling it off of there, and plucking it at the same time. Then we're lifting off our middle finger. Then the C chord. You could do a hammer on that middle finger, sounds great. Great ending for a song right there. So anyway, in the key of C, you've got all those little variations in there you can play. I'm going to show you again how you can use these in another way here very shortly. To get a C7, like you're getting ready to go from a C to an F, to get a C7, again the pinky, 3rd fret, on the only string we haven't touched here basically, on your G string. So you're going from C, C7 to F. So that's that passing tone again. So that's one way to get to there. Okay, now we're going to talk about one other chord. There's a couple of them that there's no variations on, hardly. That's like your B7. I'll throw you that one in a second. It's just the only thing you can do there. It's pretty much a dead chord. You have to know it, but as far as variations, there's not a lot to do on them. Anyway, let's go to your F chord. Okay, again, you've got your 3rd fret on your D string with your ring finger, 2nd fret on your G string with your middle finger, and then we're doing what's called a bar, B-A-R-R-E, across 2 strings on your B string and your E string at the 1st fret. So your F chord. Again, pinky is available to do basically all the same things you just did in C. So you could take it and put it on the 3rd fret of the G string. Again, hammer-ons. That's one of the cooler ones. Also there, every string on the 3rd fret. On the B string at the 3rd fret, and on the E string on the 3rd fret, that's using all 3, starting with the high E string on the 3rd fret, take it off, B string 3rd fret. Take it off. G string on the 3rd fret. Okay, so that's those. Now to get our F7, if you ever need it, on the B string, you've already got it here on the 3rd fret, let's say. Move it up one more. Okay, that's going to be your F7 if you ever need that. So you can get that kind of a thing. Okay, so that's basically it on your F. Again, you can do, if you want to, you can pull off this note on the high E string. That type of thing. So there's your high E string on the 3rd fret with your pinky, regular F. Now you're getting rid of, taking it to an open E string. Put everything back, put your pinky on the 3rd fret of the B string, then off. So you've got, you won't use that a whole lot, but that's another one that you can use. Okay, from that, that's all the notes you could do. Now real quickly, the reason why I showed you these is especially if you are finger picking. Okay, say again, C. I'm going to show you nothing more than what I just showed you earlier, except I'm going to finger pick now instead of using a pick. So you can see where all this is going to come in handy. So things like that, especially moving all these fingers around, having a variation within these chords is a must. In D, same thing, finger picking. Well, the first one we did, I'm going to do nothing more than what I showed you. Okay, so that just shows you how important this is. So we're getting you past doing that boxy sounding. Thing. Okay, we've got one more chord we have to cover, and this is going to take us directly into what I wanted to show you. The A chord. Tons to do here, more than any in the world. Okay, you've been taught to play an A chord like this, which is your first finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, your middle finger 2nd fret on the G string, and your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, and playing the 5 notes starting from the A chord all the way down. Okay, that's all good. Now for us to be able to play variations, the only thing you can do in this form is adding a pinky on the 3rd fret of the high E string. Gives you an A 7th chord. But again, that's only a passing tone to go up to the D chord. It's the only thing you can basically use that for. Now what I'm going to show you is we're going to bar that chord. So those same 3 notes on the D, G, and B string, we're going to do it with one finger, your first finger. And we're only going to play those 3 notes that you have barred. You can play the open A if you want, but you don't want to play the high E string. It's important later, but by itself, that's not an A chord. So just those basically 3 notes. Okay, now here's where we're going to create some melody and at the same time show you the variations. Okay, you've got all these fingers to work with now to create some stuff here, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to teach you the old do, re, mi thing that you hate to use, but this is the key to all music. This is why this thing was written. That thing. Okay, you have to learn this. This is actually the stupidest thing, but yet the most important thing you're ever going to learn. So pay attention here. Okay, we've got our bar on our A. We're actually going to the A note or the G string, that note. That's going to be your Do, and we're going to actually just count up to 8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we're using all of our fingers now, kiddies. Okay, like I said, this is the most important thing right here. So you've got that A note on your G string. This number 2 is going to be your ring finger. Same string on the G string on the 4th fret. Now you've already got the 3rd one. That's your B string that's still already fretted with this bar. Okay, the 4th one is your middle finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. So you've got. Now we're going to add the 5th one, which is your pinky, on the 5th fret of that same B string. Okay, keep with me on this. This is very, very important. Okay, we're going to finish this up. Here's where you're going to play your high E string, which is still barred over here. 2 more notes. Your ring finger on the 4th fret of that E string, and finally your pinky on the 5th fret. So you have. Rewind this a zillion times, play it with me if you have to. Like I said, this is the most important thing on this tape, and I'll show you why. And there's 8 total notes there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can even say Do, Re, Mi if you want. Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. Now the reason this is most important is, check this out, I'm going to get you excited about it. Especially in finger picking, which is what I'm going to show to demonstrate it. Is to do all that kind of stuff. This is where all your melody comes from the prettiest songs in the world, all the way to Christmas music. You don't have to move that bar. Yeah, it's right there. I use Christmas music a lot of times just because it helps show you how the melody can be played and your chords at the same time. Okay, so this is very, very important. Again, this here are your variations in the key of A. Okay, to show you what I mean by that, you're playing your A chord like this. You're like, you didn't show me that. Yes, I did. That's exactly what I just showed you. Again, here's your A. We're going with the ring finger. Right there. 2nd string, or 2nd fret. Scratch everything. 4th fret on the G string. That by itself is very cool. What was that other little thing I did? Just a hammer on the D string to the 4th fret. Then okay, so that's just the first part of the scale I showed you. That was your number 2 note. Cool by itself. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4th note I showed you. That's using that scale again. See, it's not always going to sound like Do, Re, Mi, but the information is there that you're going to have to use off this. Okay, again, I showed you. Okay, I'm going to show you how to bar something else. That is actually the B string and the E string at the 5th fret with your pinky. So you have a whole chord That's actually using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the 8 together. All of a sudden your A chord, it's not an acorn, it's an A chord, sounds more powerful if you do this. Just another variation. Again, using all those other notes that I showed you from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and again, if you're finger picking, this is where it all comes together. Okay, so now does it make sense? That's what your whole do, re, mi thing is. Okay, now that's all the variations I'm going to show you within the chords. Those are the only ones that are actually accessible. Now what I'm going to show you now is how to create that same melody. You're like, man, well, now that makes total sense in that key of A, but I wish I had all those variations in other keys too. Like say the key of B. We need a B chord. Okay, now we're going to talk about those modal chords. I told you, a chord that can be moved anywhere. An A chord played like this can be moved anywhere. Absolutely anywhere. So you've got your A. If you take your A, move it up 2 frets, play those 3 notes, there's a B chord. Instead of having to do this B7 thing they show you in every guitar book. Here's another way. So there's A, move it up 2 frets, you've got B. Okay, now what we're going to do is exactly the same do, re, mi junk that I showed you, but we're going to do it in the key of B. And nothing changes. That's because you're using this thing. So everything's still going to be spaced the same. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All of a sudden, you've went back and mastered now. You stopped the video, you went back and mastered this. I know you did. Before you moved on to the same thing. Lower up 2 frets to B now. The same notes. That's the beauty of modal chords and of this particular thing. You play it exactly the same, nothing changes. Everything's the same. You could put this anywhere. You're playing C. Okay, you were just now in B here at the 4th fret. Okay, C from B. It's just 1 more fret up. Exactly the same again. You take it to D. Same thing, nothing ever changes. It's always going to be that scale. So now all of a sudden we're playing the key of D and doing all this cool stuff, and it's way up here. And it looks like we know what we're doing. Why? Because we do now. Okay, nothing different there. Everything is exactly what I showed you before. Okay, now how is that important? It's very important. You can be playing, somebody else can be over there playing. Then they're going to D. Now they're going to E. Back to A. So now you've got your buddy who still only knows what you knew coming into this, playing that. Which is good. That's a basic rhythm guitar. And behind him you could be playing A, D, E, D, back to A. All of a sudden you're dang near a lead guitar player because you know how to play that scale. There's nothing different there. You're just playing one note at a time, so you're doing lead. Those are exactly the same notes. It's just a matter of what order you put them in. It makes no difference. That's why people write songs, to do something different, but still these rules apply to everything. So it's basically you only have a limited number of notes. It's just a matter of what order you put them in. It's the only thing that makes them different. Those are the same notes. Same notes. I just chose to play them in a different order. Okay, so you can play that A chord anywhere. Memorize what is where. There's your A, there's your B, there's your C chord, there's your D chord, there's your E, there's your F, there's your G, back to A. Okay, so it's just a matter of whatever the name of that note is on your G string, that's the name of the chord you're playing. You're playing a D note here. So when you put your bar across, that's a D chord. It's no different than your normal D chord. Listen. Same thing. It's just getting you around the neck, because you can't play all this in the key of D down here. It's not going to happen. So now you have a way to make that happen, all off of this one-fingered A chord looking thing, but moving it around. Okay, so enough on that one. We're going to buzz through a few more things here, cram as much as we can into this hour. It's the beauty of the rewind on these things. Okay, other modal chords. You've got your D chord, your regular D chord. You can put it anywhere as long as you don't play the D string open. So your B string, where the D note is actually being played, is going to name the chord. We can move it up to frets, make it E. Okay, that's because on the B string, that E note names the chord. But you're not changing the shape of your D chord at all. And again, because you're using that, you can do the same things we learned earlier. Putting your pinky down. All your same variations, all your notes. Move it up one more. You've got F. Move it up. Two more, you got G. Two more, you've got A. So you've got D, G, A. Okay, I'm going to let you find those. You can see them here, but listen. One chord. It's a modal chord. Okay, you can use that chord also anywhere. So your A chord and your D chord are totally modal or mobile, but modal is what they're called. Okay. So you can use all the same variations I showed you at the very first of this video. Another chord that can be moved around anywhere is F. Okay, now either your first finger on that first string or the one on your D string, they're both the same note, is going to name the chord. So you're an F. But you can move it anywhere. Same thing, move it up 2 frets. You got G. Brings me to a point. Easiest way, if you're playing a C chord to an F to a G, instead of having to make that leap for that G, just move your F chord up 2 frets. Check it out. Here's C, F, going to G, back to F. Okay, that's a very popular way for people to get right to another chord and not have to make all the jumps around to switch chords. Okay, so you've got your G, you're up 2 more, you're an A. Again, you use all your same variations on all these chords whenever you move them around. Still the same finger movements that I showed you earlier, but they're all going to apply with these modal chords too. From A to B to C. from that, you can go up to D, up to E. It just goes on and on. Again, that one note will name the chord. F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way up as far as you can go. Okay, now what else we're going to discuss is the E chord. It is very limited as far as being a modal chord. You've only got a couple places it can go, but you can get your E chord, your A chord, and your B chord. Those are the only three real chords you can get out of a modal E chord. So you've got your E here. Now if you take a look at where on the 2nd fret you've got 2 fingers, you can move those up to your 3rd dot or the 7th fret and still keep that same E chord. So now you have, so you moved it from the 2nd fret basically, as far as your point of reference, up to the 7th. Now up to the 9th, 2 more. There's a B, back to the 7th, which is an A, back to... That's about the only place an E can go. It can go up in a whole octave if your hand can reach your guitar that high. So all of a sudden you're up to the 14th, 14th, and 11th fret. But... you've got that. It's about the only place that can move. Your C chord. This is the hardest one to do, but the coolest one if you can ever do it. You can always do it. All you gotta do is practice this thing. Your C chord can actually move anywhere, but you have to do a trick to it. You got your regular C chord there. Now in order to make it a D chord, you would think, okay, we gotta go from C to D. That is what we have to do, but we have these other strings open underneath it, which makes it wrong. We have to make it right. So the only way to do this, I'm not going to talk about this too long, but I will show you how to do it, is to take this whole chord, look at it, know what fingers go where, and change everything by 1. So where you've got this finger, your ring finger, put your pinky there now. Where this middle finger is, put your ring finger there, and so forth on down. You got to change everything so it still looks like it did, except for you got to get rid of your first finger altogether. Reason is it's going to go behind it all. It's going to act like the nut on your guitar, but it's actually going to capo or bar across the 2nd fret behind your newly formed C chord. So now you can play a D chord that way. Once you have this formation, then it's 100% modal. You move it anywhere. There's D, here's E, here's F, here's G, here's A. So it's the same as if you would take this whole thing down now, make a C chord, but without using your first finger. Then if you move it up 1, 2 frets to your D position, you lay this finger behind it, bar it, then we're all good to go. You can move it anywhere you want. Okay, one other thing I gotta show you is out of that A chord looking thing, here's another way to get to another modal chord. It's basically using your D chord shape to make these. What we're doing from A, we're going to add your middle finger on the B string at the 3rd fret, and then we're also going to add on the D string on the 4th fret. So now instead of these 3 notes, we got these 3. Okay. So that's actually going from A, now we're making a D chord. Now at E, we're going to take that whole thing, just move it up 2 frets. Back to D, back to A. So you've got, where would you use that? Everywhere. Okay, again, you've heard a zillion songs that use this. You've heard way up here. Hey, that's E. Remember A, B, C, D, E? Same thing. Adding those 2 notes. There's a million things you can do with that. But that's one quick way to get from, again, some more modal chords, getting you moving around the neck. It's a quick way to do that. Again, the finger picking thing brings out a whole lot in these. And the cool thing about that shape, once you're there, that's your D. You can go right into a regular D shape. So A to D. You want to do some fun stuff with your pinky. There's some more stuff you couldn't do before when you're playing a regular D chord. Here's your D chord. You tried to make that stretch. Well, now you can do it from here because your pinky's right there. Anything you want to play, you can play it with your pinky there. And cool thing about it, A, D, E, same thing. You can play all these cool things with your pinky that way. Okay, so anyway, in closing, I hope you find a lot of this so informative, because anyway, it's going to get you past all that boxy stuff. You've got all your chords that you can switch. You've got your stuff that you can move around, your pinkies. Pull stuff off. Hammer them on. Modal. And this will make it all worthwhile, folks. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Have a ball. It's been a pleasure. Thanks. Take care, guys.